Alexander Herbert uses public transit every day to get to work and considers himself deeply fortunate because he has paid sick days.
I talk to friends and, they're not that fortunate. So it's hard to stay home when, you got to feed your family.
But the reality is that many don't have access. Instead, a missed day means pay.
They should have done that a long time ago because a lot of people can't afford to stay home. It's been a year plus and it might be even longer.
It's only fair that the paid sick leaves are actually fully covered when it's COVID related.
Peel Region's top doctor calling paid sick leave the biggest missing piece of the puzzle throughout the pandemic.
And it's not just paid sick leave because someone gets sick. Paid sick leave allows people who've been exposed to also stay home. Paid sick leave allows people who need to get tested to stay home. And paid sick leave will also allow people who need to get vaccinated to go and get vaccinated.
Then, after repeated from medical workers and community advocates,
this is a game changer and this will save lives.
This flies in the face of what has been recommended. We've been recommending 10 paid sick days because the minimum number of days people are asked to isolate is typically 10 days or more.
The government's announcement not meeting the mark was Dr. Naheed Dosani.
We know that this will help people. This stage of the pandemic, coming out and announcing an inadequate number of days, 3 days, in the context of a pandemic where we really need a minimum of 10, is really saying to our workers that their lives are not valued while their labor is.
Now, there is still so much to unpack. Of course, this announcement happening quite recently. Dr. Dasani and many others in the medical field who have been advocating for paid sick leave, they will be watching quite closely to see exactly how this is rolled out. But for now, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Shalima. Let's get back to that breaking news that is coming in from Ajax tonight. This is a live shot from the scene. A shooting outside a gas station and a plaza in the Harwood Road and Kingston Road area. It happened around 4:30. Two people, a man and a woman, both in their 20s, have been taken to a trauma center. You're looking at shots here, live shots of a vehicle up on the grass here again. This is in the Harwood and Kingston Road area where two people have been shot and they've been taken to a trauma center. They were both conscious when they were transported. We're trying to get an update from Durham Regional Police as you see the big vehicles being pulled in there, the command center being pulled in there. We don't really know at this point what's going on with the suspect. Is the suspect still outstanding? We're still trying to get details on that from Durham Regional Police. We'll keep you up to date on the very latest for you as soon as it becomes available. Go to our website, globalnews.ca.
In the past year, it has been rough, to say the least, for business owners. So when the owner of a Ronsonsville bar stood outside her business after it was robbed and vandalized, you understand why she considered throwing in the towel.
Yeah,
but her community is now helping her pick up the pieces. Our Arcavella is outside Bluebird Bar tonight with the story.
Montreal Mafia shit.
Well, Farah, it's no secret that really restaurants have been hit hard by the pandemic, having to shut down indoor and outdoor dining and really having to reimagine the way that they engage with their customers and guests. But for the Bluebird Bar, it's been an extremely difficult week having to deal with the pandemic. But also, in addition to that, a break-in happened just a couple days ago. The front door was smashed and cash was stolen. The restaurant had about $2,000 worth of losses. I spoke with the restaurant owner, and she says it was police who actually called her to notify her that there had been a break-in, and she told me when she found out, she just about gave up.
Yeah, good, because you're lying about something.
And I was like, I can't do this. Like, I thought everything was going to be gone.
You hear that screeching, scraping sound? That's the streetcars that destroy the brakes in normal operating conditions.
With this pandemic,
Bombardier.
And like, I was laughing with other bar owners. It's like, you're working so hard to lose so much. Like, you just feel like you're constantly working to get nowhere. I'm not gonna lie, like, getting the door smashed in, my first thought was like, is this payment gonna clear on my credit card? Like, am I gonna be able to afford to replace the door? I just posted a photo of the door, just being like, seriously, just in that fit of like, I can't believe this happened. And I had customers within like 15 minutes stopping by, offering to help clean up, offering like words of support and encouragement. My parents came, we cleaned up.
the beautiful bar across the street from me, the Commoner, their manager, without my knowledge, set up a GoFundMe to pay for the losses.
I think I'm just doing what any neighbor would do when they see somebody who's, going through a little crisis, is just to help reach out. Caitlin's already been struggling, and Bluebird's been struggling like most restaurants through this pandemic. So something like that happens, you just want to help. You want to take the burden off. You want to ease it a little bit.
Now, everything has been repaired. The glass here on the door has been replaced, but it has been an emotional last couple of days for Caitlin. But she says still this experience really gave her a renewed hope for the future, and she's grateful for her community. I'll send it back to you, Farah.
Toronto, the good. Thank you so much. The Ford government temporarily giving hospitals powers to move patients no longer requiring their care into long-term care homes without consent.
What we are doing is creating more space in our hospitals so that we can continue to treat patients who are coming into
hospital. What happens if the old person gets up and walks away? What are you going to do?
Be in intensive care, or people who have non-COVID related health problems.
Health Minister Christine Elliott says every effort will be made to speak with patients or their decision makers before taking the step. Patients who must be transferred while waiting for a bed in long-term care will keep their place on the waiting list for their preferred residence. And patients will not be charged accommodation and care costs until they get a bed in the residence of their choice. Those new powers being given to hospitals to deal with critical care capacity are causing even greater concern about the possibility of having to triage patients. After the break, we're going to hear why Ontarians with disabilities are sounding the alarm.
So, you have your opinions about talk radio. Want to share them and earn $75? Just take a quick 2-minute survey to find out if you qualify to join a Toronto Talk Radio Roundtable. Go to 640toronto.com and click the Radio Roundtable icon.
If I had a corona,
vaccines available to all educators.
Half measures don't work. Give us vaccines that come in half doses, and you're losing.
A message from the Elementary Teachers Federation. Joint pain in less than 5 days.
Weather together on the ones brought to you by the Gardener, Airport Chopper 682 Gardener.
We have ongoing issues at the westbound 401 approaching Warden, just flying over right now. So westbound 401 approaching Warden in the express. 2 right lanes are now blocked off with a crash. Emergency crews are on scene. The west 401 is jammed from approaching Brimley in both express and collectors now over to approaching Warden. It's a little bit better in the collector lanes, but still not good. The express lanes are just crawling along. Only the left lane getting by at the moment. Westbound 401 after that, slow going from Mavis Express west to Mavis Collectors to approaching Mississauga Road.
Team at Remax, you are going to get every.
Approaching Baby to Leslie Collectors, Victoria Park to east of Warden, both express and collectors. Everyone's slowing down because of the westbound issue. And don't forget, if you're heading through Ajax, we have a closure of Kingston Road and Harwood. Closure of walk in all directions. The side streets, all the residential streets directly around the intersection, really jammed up, but the main roads are okay. For the 680 Traffic Center, here's Carling Donahue.
Looks like we have a new problem now. It's on the northbound 410 approaching Clark. The left lane is blocked off with a collision. We have tow trucks on scene. It is causing a delay right now from Steeles just to approaching Clark, but it was pretty busy through that stretch anyways beforehand, so nothing really going to change your drive there. Eastbound on the QEW, we have delays east of Trafalgar to Ford Drive. Eastbound Gardner, West Gardner, those are all moving up to speed right now, same with the westbound QEW. We do have a delay on the northbound DVP. It's from Don Mills to north of Lawrence, but southbound on that route is fine, and the 400 is completely up to speed. We have a number of closures, though. The $300 welcome bonus.
Le ministère de la Santé rappelle aux femmes enceintes que si elles attrapent la COVID-19, le risque de donner naissance à un bébé prématuré augmente. Et les complications peuvent être encore plus grandes pour celles qui souffrent de problèmes de santé comme le diabète ou l'obésité, par exemple.
On a eu des périodes prolongées dans la première.
$300 welcome bonus. It's a bank account that lets you do more, all from one package. Conditions apply. Rate is for a limited time and varies by savings period. Visit scotiabank.com/ultimate300. Scotiabank.
It's simple. If you're talking about it, we're talking about it and analyzing it. We are your news talk leader. 640 Toronto. Insightful, engaging, intelligent. Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Some breaking news we've been following throughout the newscast. A man and woman in their 20s are in hospital after a daytime shooting in Ajax. Our Marianne Domain rushed to the scene. She has the very latest from there now. Marianne, what do we know at this point?
Well, I can tell you far behind me, it is still very much an active scene. What we know is this happened just after 4 o'clock this afternoon at a gas station just south of Harwood, or rather south of Kingston on Harwood. And the victims were apparently shot. And you can see the vehicle there, that white vehicle veered off the road. There are multiple gunshots in that car. You can see that even the window on the passenger side is shattered. Now, at this point, we only know that 2 people, a man and a woman in their 20s, have been transported to hospital. No information on exactly what their condition is at this point. No names or really any other information beyond that. As for suspects, no information from police either. We have no idea at this point whether there are multiple people they're looking for or just one lone gunman. We're still waiting for information and confirmation of a lot of details, but right now still a very active scene. The area of Harwood cordoned off south of Kingston all the way to Gardiner Drive. A lot of people coming by here to figure out what's going on. There is a command post that just arrived here as well. A lot of police officers, multiple cruisers trying to comb the scene to collect evidence. Of course, this is a developing story and we will be here for more information. But at this point, 2 people taken to hospital, and a man and a woman in their 20s. No word on exactly what their condition is and no word on a suspect description at this point.
What's the other one, Nick
Alan
Carter?
I'll send it back to you.
And quite a large scene. Marianne, thank you for that. Now to the COVID crisis once again. With Ontario's ICUs being pushed to the brink, hospitals are trying to free up as many beds as possible.
But they're also preparing for the worst. Healthcare workers may need to choose who gets a bed if there simply are not enough.
And as Karen Lieberman reports, there will be a process to follow, but some say it discriminates against people with disabilities.
There's an online web
With
calculator.
the number of ICU admissions soaring in Ontario, doctors and nurses may be on the verge of having to make impossible life or death decisions.
Not impossible.
We've never had to do anything like this before.
Yes, you did.
Discussions around triaging life-saving care are difficult, especially as protocols are still being fine-tuned. But the ongoing third wave could make it a reality.
If we have to initiate it, it's because the demands on our system are exceeding our system's capacity to handle them.
Ontario hospitals received this document in January laying out guidelines on what to do if ICU beds run out. An official protocol has yet to be published. One of the guiding principles, the likelihood a patient would survive 12 months from the onset of critical illness.
So while they say they're sizing up whether you're likely to live for a year, yeah, that's the criterion, they have these tools that are explicitly disability-based for deciding it for some patients. That is disability discrimination. That is contrary to the Charter of Rights.
For months, this disability advocate has been writing to the Minister of Health calling for transparency, pointing out the secrecy over critical care triage plans has made many people with disabilities terrified, angry, and distrustful.
I'm afraid. I'm totally afraid to go to hospital right now.
John Mosa has muscular dystrophy. The clinical frailty scale in the draft protocol worries him.
People with disabilities, seniors, people who have cancer that need more assistance with their activities of daily living, they would rank very high on this scale.
This is how
So if you
Tracy
thought I was
O'Dowd,
lucky to
living
get
with
my
spinal
sickle cell
muscular
diagnosis
atrophy,
just
describes
before
it.
this all went
Just
down,
being thrown in the ocean without a
2
life
months.
raft.
2 months.
You just do not get those tools to
Sorry,
survive.
3 months.
Do not,
No, this went crazy around November.
You're going to be a low
November.
priority.
They didn't tell us
But
till
Dr.
December.
James Donar, who's helping to draft the protocol, insists it is not based on disability, rather saving the most lives possible.
What we're trying to do is make sure that if we have to apply this, that it will be applied fairly across the board.
Then how come a white guy
So
is
at what
telling us
point
this?
would this triage protocol come into effect? Well, at this point, we know that Ontario hospitals are preparing.
With no
They're
old
training
hip,
around
don't
emergency
slip.
care standards.
Economics
but the
trumps
Minister of Health,
politics,
Christine
kid,
Elliott,
get
was asked
paid.
about a specific timeline today and did not provide much clarity, simply said that the triage protocol has not yet been activated. Back to you.
Thank you, Karen.
No, but it will be.
Our pinpoint radar network still has some showers, mostly impacting southwestern Ontario, where there's a sliver of a severe thunderstorm watch. We're also tracking rain to the east and another system coming in tomorrow. More umbrella weather on the way.
So I've grown this before indoors.
Doug Ford says schools are safe, but it's not true. 1 in 4 Ontario schools have active COVID-19 cases. Ford didn't do what experts told him to do to keep kids safe. Now the virus is out of control and we're facing school closures again. Half measures don't work. It's time to make vaccines available to all educators and frontline workers. Schools won't be safe
Because
until
half doses
transmission is
don't
under
work.
control.
Okay, that
A
makes a
message
lot of
from the
sense.
Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario.
With all that's going on these days, let Good Food help make life a little easier. Get $80 off the #1 meal kit in Canada and free contactless delivery directly to your door. With fresh, fun, and delicious recipes for every palate in your household, we're making mealtime easier and safer than ever before. Get $40 off your first 2 orders at Good Food. That's $80 in savings. Go to makegoodfood.ca to redeem your offer with the gift code GF80. Offer valid for a limited time for new members only.
Alpine Credits, do you own your home?
You mean the condo I've been trapped in since forever?
Yeah, I hear ya.
Figure I should upgrade the home office.
Approved.
Maybe add a home theater.
Approved. Home restaurant. Approved. Sure, but
football stadium.
A day-over-day decline, but 877 of those are in the ICU, which ties a record set on Monday. Just over 116,000 vaccines were given in a single day as we near the 5 million mark. I'm Irene Franklin.
We'll check traffic and weather next.
So, our mortgage approval is done?
Great news. The bank has approved you at a 1.55% rate.
What the what? That's way too high. The other mortgage is 1.15%.
Well, it cannot be the same as our bank's mortgage.
It's totally the same. 5-year variable rate, same features.
Pizzaville made the extra thin crust pizza. You get the same authentic Italian taste as our regular pizza, but with 2/3 less carbs. Because the last thing Raul wants is an inflatable waist.
Pizzaville Stone-Baked Pizza. Fiercely Canadian. Authentically Italian.
This spring on Showcase. My patriarchal ancestor, Lawrence Rutherford, founded our town. The creator of The Good Place in Parks and Recreation. Nathan, I'm calling to...
It's called sedum, S-E-D-U-M, sedum. It's frost-tolerant, succulent, and each of these pieces, if it falls on the ground, can grow roots and make another one of these. So it's good for you'll see it pop up in a crack in the asphalt in the middle of winter. This bright green puffy thing of fucking. It looks kind of like weed, but not really.
Thanks on Global News at 5:30 and 6, and download the Global TV app to get Global News for free anytime.
One of the pioneers of space exploration has passed away. The thing I remember most is the view of planet Earth from a great distance. Apollo 11 astronaut Michael Collins died of cancer today at the age of 90. He didn't set foot on the moon himself, but he played a critical role in July of 1969. He piloted the command module, which allowed Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to descend to the lunar surface in a separate vehicle. Think of Collins as history's greatest designated driver. Neil Armstrong, the first person to step on the moon, passed away in 2012.
Let's take a look at the weather forecast. Here is Anthony Farnell with hopefully some good news.
Well, some good news for the next couple of hours. If you're heading outside, we are at the high temperature of the day. Far also notice the sun glaring off the inner harbor. Sunny breaks. It's not a completely clear sky, and there is still some darker areas out there. Slight chance of a shower, although I think we're in the clear for much of the GTA. 17 degrees, winds from the north-northeast at only 7 kilometers per hour. 17 sounds pretty nice when you look at the next 24 to 48 hours, because not only do we have clouds, some drizzle later tonight and through tomorrow morning, there's a steady rain that's expected all afternoon. We will peak at 13 degrees by about 7 p.m., but you'll definitely need that umbrella on Thursday. April showers, we're getting a lot of those now at the end of the month after it's been dry for really the last 2 months. So we could use the rain. We're getting it. 10 degrees in Chicago. It's 9 in Winnipeg, 12 Saskatoon, 16 off in Calgary, near average for that.
In the certain sections of the GTA overnight. So if you're an early morning commuter tomorrow, be mindful of that. Plus, we still have this chance of showers and kind of drizzly, misty conditions along with that fog through the overnight and early morning tomorrow. Periods of steady rain for the second half of the day expected on Thursday with those cooler temperatures that we've been just kind of getting used to lately. Although today we kind of turned a corner, which is nice, but it's temporary. Tomorrow and Friday, we are going to hover below the seasonal average, and there's still a chance of some spring showers for Friday, the last day of April, and highs only near 9 degrees. Your overnight low tonight, 8.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, breaking news from Ajax. Heavy Durham Regional Police presence at the scene of a shooting. Multiple victims reported. No word on their condition. Road closures in the area of Harwood and Kingston Road. We should get an update soon. And breaking news from the Ford government, finally mandating paid sick days. That story straight ahead.
Carrots. I think there's some sweet potato in there. Broccoli. What do they call Brussels sprouts? And then there's also cabbage.
Casino games with over 500 high-quality online slot games, including the world.
They said it was lemon pepper chicken. They also had lemon pepper salmon. I think it was salmon, and lemon pepper and veggies. Yeah, veggies. All right.
19 on Sunday, but notice the rain icons. There are quite a few of them through the next 7 days, although not all wet as we saw today. 16 degrees at 7 p.m. This is Stella from Peterborough.
Yeah, that's
you should be
potato,
dry
right?
for that evening walk. Guys?
Yeah, that's sweet potato.
Thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure there was carrot in the other one.
Sussex
Is that this
are
here?
leading a benefit concert aimed at increasing the global vaccination effort. More details after the break. What is it?
You too cold is kind of okay.
Richie's next. This is 680 News.
In times like these, shouldn't your money work even harder for you? We think so. That's why at Duca Credit Union, you get no-fee checking accounts. You also get high interest on deposits and investments.
How do we spell Duca?
And low mortgage rates.
How do we
Plus,
spell
you get to
Duca?
share in the profits. That's the Duca difference. And now, get rates as low as 1.59% on a 3-year fixed mortgage when you switch to Duca. Find out how at mortgage.duca.com. Do more. Be more. Achieve more with Duca Credit Union. Conditions apply.
If I had a Corolla, I'd crank up the Apple CarPlay and do a girls' weekend. Maybe we
I know
can
they said
stop
it's
by
pepper.
that
I'm adding more
pottery shop
pepper.
again. I wonder if that cute guy Mark still works there. Mom? Oh, yes, sweetie. Who's Mark?
Red Tag Days are back. Stop dreaming about a new Toyota and start driving one.
Speedy last replace. Tim was a man who was full of life, who was all about family. When Tim passed away, everything changed. You know, nothing is the same. And that was the end of life as I knew it.
On April 28th, we remember all those who've suffered a workplace death, injury, or illness. Learn more at wsibdayofmourning.ca.
What does it feel like to play Lotto 649? Well, with an upcoming jackpot of an estimated $20 million.
Kind of like going to work. You might come home, you might not. Hey, look at them eyes.
Small business owners who can ill afford it, but worried because other government programs like the Ontario Small Business Grant have taken weeks, if not months, for employers to actually get the money that the government has promised them. So I'm not super confident that this reimbursement to the employer who is upfront paying for the cost of the sick leave is going to happen.
All right, on to the markets now because there's lots.
How about all the pandemic pay, bonus pay the government sent out that never got handed out to the workers yet?
54.
How about the Phoenix pay? Federal employees not getting paid for like 2.5 years straight. They had to settle for, I think it was $2,500 on average a piece. Imagine going to work for 2 fucking years and not getting a fucking paycheck for 2 fucking years. That's job security, eh? You got something over on them later.
Daily active users, 1.88 billion Facebook stock hit a record in the extended trade. TSX closed at a record high, up 108.
The number of daily users is this. The stock price was real high, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Here's a look at this week's Your GTA.
On May 16th, join the kids.
Yeah, I thought there was carrots in the other one, but this appears to be sweet potatoes, all sweet
across
potatoes.
Canada can have access to a brighter tomorrow. And donate online to New Circles Community Services to help GTA families in need. For more events and fun things to do, visit globalnews.ca and click Your GTA.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle joined a group of A-listers at an event to increase global vaccinations.
Vax Live, the concert to reunite the world, has been organized by Global Citizen, and it's raising money to get vaccines to medical workers in the world's poorest countries.
Remember SARS stock, Downsview Park? What was that, 2003, 2004?
$80 in savings. Go to makegoodfood.ca to redeem your offer with the gift code GF80. Offer valid for a limited time for new members only.
Checking tonight's forecast, we have cloudy with showers, a low near 8, and then tomorrow more rain, 10 to 15 millimeters. Downtown Toronto, mix of sun and clouds, 16 feels like 18 at 6:30.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
That's cauliflower. There's cauliflower in there too.
April 28th, I'm still
Thank you, Ma. It's delicious.
And I'm James Monroe. Here's what you need to know.
A shooting in Ajax has left multiple people injured in a large area taped off by police, including a car left riddled with bullet holes. The province introduces a program to provide workers with free paid sick days. This to help employees take time off to self-isolate and to address workplace outbreaks of COVID-19.
The province creates an emergency order which will allow patients who no longer need hospital care to be transferred to
Lemon pepper chicken. There's no fucking joke. It's delicious.
The City of Toronto and Vaccine Hunters Canada team up. Enterprising people, volunteers, God bless them. The mayor says they all want the same thing.
So the wait is over. George Springer will make his Jays debut tonight against the Washington Nationals. Leafs are in Montreal to play the Habs. Sports at 45.
Big earnings beat from Apple. Facebook impresses as well with its financial results. The TSX closes at a record high, in news on Beyond Meat in business at 56.
680 News Time, 6:31.
Traffic and weather together on the one, brought to you by Audi Mississauga Airport in Shopper 680. Here's Jordan Kern.
High-flying around this crash on the westbound 401 approaching Warden to the Express. 2 right lanes are blocked up with a collision.
And disguised as a police officer, murdered 22 people over 13 hours. On our podcast, 13 Hours Inside the Nova Scotia Massacre, we examine this tragedy hour by hour. We're learning there's a lot more to this story. Listen to all 13 episodes now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
It's moving well westbound. You can take that instead and avoid the 401 if you want.
En plus, j'avais beaucoup. Peggy Lee dans cet extrait de son disque Peggy Lee Sings the Blues. Et l'an passé, j'ai eu.
This is On Point with Alex Pearson on Global News Radio.
Do I accept responsibility for all of that? I'm not a public health expert. I'm here to try and fix.
I want to paint it black.
But if the building's on fire and you're running into it to try and save people, yeah, I think that's pretty much what we tried to do. But we didn't start the fire. No, the Ford government didn't
Extended care nursing home fire. My grandfather is the author. You'll find it.
Responsibility. Alex Pearson with you on this Wednesday, March 28th, and it's been one of those kinds of busy days, certainly for the Ford government, because they started their day with a lashing from the Auditor General this morning, and then it was capped off this afternoon as they tried to neutralize what's really become a festering political hill that the Ford government decided they didn't want to die on. And we're going to go through the details of this devil of a sick day program, because the quick and dirty, I mean, it's complex, and there's a lot to it, but the quick and dirty is this. The taxpayer, not the businesses, are going to be paying for 3 days of sick leave for workers affected by COVID. And if the Trudeau government agrees to it, province will top up the federal sick day program, which right now offers $500 a week for 4 weeks to $1,000 a week. But of course, he has to agree to that, which if he doesn't, would then leave Trudeau holding this flaming bag of dog poop that he really should be holding anyway, because the sick day program his government created has been nothing but a flaming bag of dog poop. But this is a really expensive program. So we're talking nearly $2 billion, which was not budgeted in the Ford government's spring budget. And will it make people happy? No, of course not.
And that's the lesson Mr. Drama Teacher, the Prime Minister, is teaching everybody. I gave you exactly what you wanted. You're still not happy. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing.
A large police presence near Harwood and Kingston. People were saying that they heard gunshots. Now, in a tweet, Durham Regional Police say that they are on scene investigating a shooting in that area that has left multiple victims, adding that one person has been taken to hospital. A video on Twitter shows multiple squad cars in the now taped off area. There's also a white car which looks to be stopped on the grass in front of a Wild Wing in that location. The car looks to be riddled with bullet holes. Evidence markers are seen on the street, and there's still a heavy police presence at the Pioneer gas station and the neighboring plaza. Now, callers say the shooter was...
Did it used to be a shell? I'm just wondering.
Gas station, but it has yet to be confirmed by police at this time. And police do say that road closures are in effect, as you've been hearing in our traffic reports, and police are asking drivers to avoid the area. And we are set to receive an update from Durham Police shortly, so please stay with us. Reporting
You little
live.
bastards! Why are you chewing holes in these? These are for garbage, you little bastards.
We're breaking news on an about face from the Ford government. The province finally introducing a program to provide workers in Ontario with a handful of paid sick days. It's also offered to top up the federal sick leave program to $1,000 per week to those eligible, but that is yet to be finalized with Ottawa. 680's Phil Martino joins us with the details. Phil.
So, Jana, Monty McNaughton, the Minister of Labour, announced the province will introduce legislation that would require employers to provide employees with up to $200 of pay for up to 3 days if they are missing work because of COVID-19. He says they have stressed from the beginning that anyone who is sick should stay home from work.
But we know that for some people, it was hard to heed that advice because they couldn't afford to take time off work. If a scratchy throat or a simple sneeze meant they could lose a day's pay or more, some people were reluctant to stay home. This should never happen, and it ends now.
The province will reimburse employers for up to 3 paid COVID-19 leave days for every employee. Now, Sam Conover, who owns Broad Lingerie in Toronto, says what she doesn't understand is why employers across the board will be reimbursed.
So it won't just be helping out small businesses with thin margins. It will also be going towards huge, super profitable companies. So I'm a little bit concerned about that.
It's all too little too late for opposition leader Andrea Horwath. She says 3 paid sick days are not enough, and she calls today's announcement a huge disappointment.
They came forward today with a back of an envelope, a kind of solution that's really not enough to stop the spread of COVID-19 in our workplaces. It's not enough to give people the financial security they need to be able to protect themselves, their coworkers, and their communities from COVID-19.
She wants permanent paid sick days plus 14 government-funded paid sick days during a pandemic or infectious disease emergency. The province has also offered to boost the Canada Recovery Sickness Benefit from $500 to $1,000. Phil Martino, 680 News.
So strained hospitals will now be able to shuffle patients who could better be supported in a long-term care or retirement home to such a facility without their consent. Here's 680's Momin Qureshi.
This emergency power would allow hospitals to move patients who no longer require hospital care and are waiting for a spot to open up at a long-term care home.
This would be done in only the most urgent of situations, when a hospital is at risk of becoming overwhelmed.
Health Minister Christine Elliott says in some cases, it's possible the patient will be moved to a home that is not of their choosing and done without the patient's permission.
We would ask for their consent, but there may be circumstances under extreme overcrowding in our hospitals where where it might be necessary to transfer someone with a...
NDP leader Andrea Horvath says this type of move is troubling.
I think that we will hear some pretty horrifying stories once the government puts this policy into place.
The health minister says patients can still be moved to a facility of their choice down the road when a space opens up. I'm Owen Qureshi.
Overcrowding, poor ministry oversight, and a severe staffing shortage existed even before the pandemic hit. That today from Ontario's Auditor General, who's released a special report on this. 6 Cities' Richard Southern has the details.
The Auditor General, Bonnie Lisick, says in this report that Ontario's long-term care sector was not positioned or prepared to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. She points out a total lack of oversight for the sector. Another big problem, she points out, is overcrowding. At least 30% of residents were infected at the same time, and 2/3 of rooms had 3 or 4 residents inside at the same time. And it was quite the response from the Minister of Long-Term Care.
But that's not the problem. They were purposely putting one sick person in with 3 not sick people. Oh, they're all sick. Let's mix them up again. That's what they were doing. That's what you get for telling people they don't have to finish high school or get training or anything. You can be a PSW. This started 20 some odd years ago, and you all let it slide, and now you're in these homes. It's your fault. It's your own fucking fault.
Existing PSW staff, such as feeding residents, changing, bathing, etc., and helping with that. And so I think that was an unintended consequence, that the hands weren't there to help the residents that were in isolation and were in without enough PSWs.
Yeah, it's very sad when you think back to those days, and thankfully in this third wave, at least we're not hearing about big outbreaks and deaths in long-term care, but we certainly paid that price in the spring, you know. But nothing in this report is new. All these recommendations that Ms. Lisick has put forward before will be put, forward again. The only thing that really changes this time is that COVID has actually forced us to confront what we've allowed our elected officials to ignore. It's not a partisan issue for me. They've all failed long-term care. And it's in our interest to make sure it's not failing in the future, because we're all going to be there one day. God help us.
Yeah, if you live long enough.
So let's make sure
keep leaving that part out. If you live long enough, most black people won't.
The sad thing is we shouldn't allow it to fail those who are in it now.
We don't feel sorry.
And so how do you fix it? I mean, it took decades to get here. Then the question becomes, how long is it going to take to get us out? We'll talk about that and some of the options we have. Busy show tonight. We're going to talk about something that one of the doctors, Dr. Warner, who's become pretty well known, he put out a tweet today saying that he had a couple of COVID patients who had their first Pfizer shot. And so is this delay in second shots now putting people into vulnerable situations? When we do talk about this on the show, the whole politics of delaying shots, well, maybe people have been lulled into a full sense of security. So we'll talk about that, talk about the sick pay plan coming up next, our options for long-term care, and what the
collision. Crews are on scene. Vehicles are being hooked up and the ambulance has left, so that's good news. Westbound 401 is jammed starting from McCowan. Delays in both express and collectors to approaching Warden, but it does get a lot better in the collector lanes. It starts out really busy in both, then the collector lanes get better and better and better, whereas the express lanes are just horrible the whole way down. After that, though, everything's moving well. Eastbound 401 slow from the DVP to east of Warden, both express and collectors slow. Well, because of that westbound issue, people are slowing down, so visual distraction. Ongoing in Ajax, we have a closure at Kingston Road and Harwood, closed for a block in all directions because of a police investigation. Side roads and residential streets around the intersection really heavy, but the main roads are okay. And just getting word from the FTO, westbound 401 approaching Warden in the Express, problems are just clearing away. All lanes are now reopening. For the 680 Traffic Center, here's Carolyn Donahue.
We're still seeing a delay on the northbound 410 from north of Steeles to north of Queen, and that's due to a mix of volume and the fact that there was a collision there earlier. But all the other major routes, the Gardner, the QEW, the DVP, the 404, the 400, they are all smooth sailing now. All the delays have cleared up.
They're all sailing smoothly.
Clear on city streets. Southbound Black Creek has reopened at Trippz, and we're still dealing with 2 closures on our city streets as well. Aaron Mills Parkway shut down both directions from Thomas to Britannia, and Britannia shut down both east and westbound from Glen Aaron to Hogan. Those 2 closures are due to a collision and some downed wires. Earn PC Optimum points exclusively at SO.
Today with
Now the forecast. Here's Denise Andriacci.
Temperatures really climbed for the evening. It's quite nice out there. We do have the clouds building in spots and still the chance of showers and isolated thunderstorms as well. Not a whole lot happening on the radar right now. Likely overnight, we'll see some fog patches develop, some misty, drizzly conditions for tomorrow morning and through the day. And then late day, it looks like steady rain, about 10 to 15 millimeters possible. Friday, too, we are finishing off with this chance of showers, finishing the month of April off, and colder temperatures as well. Friday looks like the coldest day of the week. Highs only near about 9 degrees. Your overnight low tonight, 8.
This is 680 News. Most Canadians have 2 days left to file their taxes. The Income Tax Act states the deadline for most Canadians to file their income tax and benefit return is April 30th. That's this Friday. And it is important to file on time, especially if you owe money. Meeting the deadline, though, also in...
Just so you know, the income tax and the benefit return, the income tax and the benefit return, it's not two separate things. These people are just horrible at speaking, even when it's written in front of them.
Winter tires wear faster and get noisy on the warm.
What? Sorry. Payment arrangements. Now, if you, your spouse, or your common law partner are self-employed, you do have until June 15th. At the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
Scott McGilvery here. I've done hundreds of home renovations over the years, and in particular, I use DMX One Step 2.0. This easy to
if you look for DMX music videos, the ads that'll pop up in the results will include this shit.
Can be a food source for mold growth. DMX One Step can be used under most vinyl or laminate floors. So whatever you choose, you know your investment will be protected. DMX One Step 2.0. No mold, no cold. Find it at the Home Depot.
Find a car today, a much better way. Visit OntarioCars.ca.
Listen here, my friend, and I'll offer a little advice. Why scour the city looking for a used or new car when you can easily visit OntarioCars.ca and
Out of investment so that RRSPs, TFSAs, the stock market, mutual funds, and pension plans are working for you. Go to AskCalvin.ca because a little advice today can mean a successful tomorrow. That's AskCalvin.ca. AskCalvin.ca.
Does your business sound like this? We'll make it sound like this. That's the sound of a business using Chorus to reach to this.
Hello, how may I help you?
Register now for a free 30-minute virtual consultation. And now is the perfect time with our Back to Business exclusive packages. Chorus.online/radio.
Changes made to your job due to COVID-19? New regulations in Ontario haven't suspended your rights. If your pay has been cut or you've been put on a temporary layoff, you can still take action.
Au revoir, Jean-Sébastien, notre analyste aux affaires internationales, François Bousseau.
De ce côté-ci de l'Atlantique, on a annoncé, on le voyait venir, ce n'est pas une grande surprise, mais là c'est officiel, on a annoncé que le Grand Prix du Canada est annulé pour une deuxième année consécutive, en raison bien sûr de la pandémie. L'événement, course de Formule 1, devrait toutefois revenir l'an prochain. Les gouvernements fédéral et québécois, ainsi que la ville de Montréal et Tourisme Montréal se sont en...
Something we could be proud of. That is a tall order. That is the Auditor General, Bonnie Lysyk. And what she's suggesting would mean changing the way we actually treat long-term care, which right now, if you ask me, is nothing more than warehousing the sick and vulnerable. And there's going to be another report released tomorrow on long-term care. And again,
you're warehousing them, you'd be taking care of them at least. You're fucking purposely making them sick and killing them.
Was in no way prepared to protect.
They separate married couples. They separate married couples.
A pox on all their houses because no one wants to hear excuses right now, right?
A pox on all their houses. You see the curse you just did. A pox. That's a plague. on their houses. That would be the long-term care homes. Wow.
And Bonnie Lissick, I feel like this report has just been recycled and then you throw in a pandemic. We have heard this like many, many times. It's just staggering that nothing ever gets fixed.
Well, can I just start by saying I kind of feel vindicated and validated because you've had me on this show so many times and you've been asking me, the media is buzzing around this for-profit, not-for-profit homes and what role that played in the pandemic. And I tried very hard to explain, that actually that had very little to do. We have very, very long-rooted problems. And I have to say, shame on the media because it went down the rabbit hole. And in doing so, it actually papered over a lot of the problems that I was really happy to see Bonnie Lissick actually gave some life to in this report. This is a person who's obviously focused on just the facts, ma'am. She's focused on value for money. And this for-profit, not-for-profit didn't even come up in the report. But she does talk about a lot of very deep-seated problems that have to be fixed. So I just wanted to put that on the record because there it is.
Yeah, it gets very political in, we've got to get rid of one and only have, the socialized system. But, I had a loved one in the public system, and I can tell you, it ain't anything to brag about. The whole system, to me, is broken. And it's got to be, I think, demolished from the ground and rebuilt. And so how do you, after this thing, start rebuilding so that it actually is a care that has compassion, integrity, and protection?
Right. So I think she really laid it out very, very well. And what struck me about her report is she was very careful to ensure that it was excessively clear that we understand these problems are really, really, most of them long-rooted. She did call out this government for a couple of things that I think we have to stop doing. For one thing, she did say that, this idea of packing people up from hospitals and funneling them over to homes where they're congregate settings where, you are having outbreaks just really, truly does not make sense. And I have to say, I am a bit critical because I see that that's happening to this day. There was an announcement made that they were going to, sending people on to homes. I think we got to get people to their proper home or to, if they can go home, to get them home as opposed to these congregate settings. She also...
And just to your point on that was an announcement made today, and this is a big power given to hospitals that they can send patients from hospitals into long-term care.
Right. Well, but here you have a loved one.
That's...
Yeah, so here you have an auditor who's saying that was part of the problem.
For white people. This congregate living's bad because it's affecting white people now.
The other big thing she slammed this government for was she said that there was a complete inconsistency. It was saying to homes, people can't go to visit their loved ones, family caregivers can go, but meanwhile they were staffing and they were sending people from home to home. This is a huge problem. We have to fix our staffing system so that we are not sending people from home to home because it turns out they were spreading it. But then she...
Idiots doing non-essential work in the building right now, insisting they got to stand here in front of my door with the door. It's oil-based. Are you fucking stupid? I'm sick. I'm calling security. What's security gonna do? Make me not sick and lift the fucking non-essential work ban? You fucking retard.
Problems. They are well documented. Why is it after so many reports? She even quotes her own reports. She quotes Justice Archie Campbell's report. And yet it seems like most of the good stuff was left on the cutting room floor, that nothing has ever been done, that recommendations by and large have not been taken up over the years. So we're talking decades. We're not talking, 2 years. The second thing that she talks about, sorry, that's my dog who wants to bark at the neighbor. The second thing that she talks about is the fact that there seems to be an overcapacity in these homes, that while they're only supposed to have 2 patients to a room, the ministry was completely unaware of the fact that sometimes there were 3 and 4. So overcapacity in these homes. She talks about, and this is a big one, and a lot of people who have loved ones in homes will understand this. You have people taking care of the most vulnerable, many of whom are not trained. Now, the government is trying to deal with training and standards for PSWs, and they're not all not trained, but 61% of the staff in long-term care homes are PSWs, and they are not regulated. So the government is now trying to move on.
Believe me now.
That is huge. And the final thing that I think is really something that I don't understand why we couldn't get that in line is that infection protection and control measures. are not really instituted properly in these homes, and they don't actually have access to the expertise to help them with that. So there was a lot of ad hocery and a lot of real bad practice that helped this virus spread.
Yeah, it's like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge when it comes to the inspections. It's like, oh, by the way, we'll be showing up Tuesday, and then the home gets all prepared for Tuesday. But the point is, we need a rigid inspection system that is designed to fight for those who need the protecting, and not the person running the home or the entity running the home. But I did the takeaway. One of my takeaways, as you kind of pointed to, is that family is always the best advocate. You have to know what is going on with your loved one, and if you're lucky enough that your loved one can stay at home for home care, then you're blessed. But if your loved one has dementia or some kind of a degenerative illness or going into palliative care, you have to be able to advocate for them and be there for them, because you are the best front lines.
Well, that's absolutely right. You've nailed it, Alex. But I think that we also have to be consistent. And if you are going to have to limit, not completely restrict, but limit visitation during these times, then you have to be consistent, because it makes no sense to a person who's desperately trying to take care of mom and isn't allowed to go near mom, and meanwhile, the cast of Ben-Hur is flying through the long-term care home. That makes no sense. It's just wrong. So there's a lot of work to do. I do think the government's trying to tackle some of these things. They made this announcement now on this new, I guess it's some kind of college that they're going to try to get some standards, et cetera, and training. But there's a lot to fix here, and it's taken us years to get into this mess. I suspect it's going to take years to get us out.
Yeah, and it's more than just buying the talking points of the politicians. I mean, until like yourself or myself, until you've had someone in one of these places, you just don't know what you don't know, and it gives you a whole different perspective, and it's a fundamentally broken system. Francesca, I always appreciate your insight into this, and I'm sure there's another report, as you know, coming out tomorrow, so we'll keep an eye on that and have you back.
Great. Take care.
Thank you. Cheers. That is Francesca Grosso, who's been following this and certainly knows an awful lot about health policy and the history of it in this province. And again, it's up to us. Stop buying the BS political spin. It's time for some action on this file. Busy show tonight. We will get to it. Get your news at the top of the hour. We'll be back here on Point on Global News Radio.
Regain your active lifestyle with Genical Pain Relief. Genical Pain Relief.
There's no taste, so it doesn't interfere with feeding. Pediatricians recommend vitamin D daily for breastfed infants. Baby D drops the sunshine vitamin in just one drop.
680 News Time, 6:56. Now the 680 News Business Report. Here's Richard Southern.
Good evening. Apple's gone and done it again. Another blowout quarter, big earnings, big iPhone sales, and a big stock buyback as well. Apple said sales were up 54% year-on-year in the latest quarter to $89.6 billion. Profit coming in for 3 months at $23.6 billion. That was up 11.2% year-on-year. Brisk iPhone sales, the reason. iPhone sales up more than 65% year-on-year, but my goodness, Mac sales up 70%. So doing a good business in desktop computers, perhaps related to all the work at home. We're seeing cash on the books now of $204 billion for Apple, a $90 billion stock buyback, and the shares were higher by about 3% in the after-hours trade. Facebook impressing investors as well.
Hey, can you travel to India and buy yourself a cylinder of oxygen? No? I don't think your money's worth much.
Beyond Meat is famous now for its plant-based burgers, its ground beef and all that, but it's reportedly set to shift into chicken. Bloomberg News reports that Beyond Meat is set to come out with a line of chicken alternatives this summer, faux chicken, if you will. If true, it would be a significant shift because real chicken is the most popular meat sold in the grocery store. Beyond Meat not commenting on this, but it did say it's coming out with a new version of its Beyond Burger. One that's more nutritious and perhaps cheaper as well. Beyond Meat stock edged higher. The TSX at a record high today was up 181 points to 19,356. Shopify strong earnings. The stock was up more than 11.1%. On Wall Street, the Dow fell 164 points. The S&P was down 3, and the Nasdaq fell 39. Canadian dollars up to 81.23 cents US, and the top stories are next on 680 News.
With the Daily Grand Lotto, you can win $1,000 a day for life.
Wait, every single day?
Yeah.
So
$99.98. That's 224-9998.
I'm Dr. Les Kramer, and I'd like to give you and your family a good night's sleep.
What does it feel like to play Lotto 649? Well, with an upcoming jackpot of an estimated
Thursday. T.ca.
So get that 649 feeling. Try your
Gamble, gamble, gamble. Your government wants you to gamble and drink alcohol.
The Performance Auto Group Pre-Owned Demo Event on now until April 30th by appointment only and online. Performance.ca/demo for details.
This is 6 City News. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown says there's no excuse for people holding indoor social gatherings when a provincial stay-at-home order is in effect. Brown made the comment at a news conference after 14 people were charged for apparently getting together at a party on Monday. City officials say the tenants of the home were among those fined $880 each for violating the Reopening Ontario Act. Brampton's Director of Bylaw Enforcement says indoor events are not prevalent, but they are being reported across the city.
Weather.
It's all about the numbers. And if we're off by more than 3 degrees,
You can win our cash jackpot.
Surgeon General's warning smoking causes lung cancer, heart disease, emphysema, may complicate pregnancy.
Get $300 plus pay no monthly fee for up to 12 months.
Yeah, every time I look towards a screen, it should lock up and freeze up. We know what you're obsessed with, Jomo. We know.
Toronto chopper traffic.
Don't just know the story. Understand it.
You've done the exact same thing we said you would over 22 times.
640 Toronto, a Chorus Entertainment Company.
That's how predictable you are.
You're listening to
That's how
Global News
pathological
Radio.
and not in control of any. Oh, you're angry. You're angry. You realize I'm ending the video.
From the Global News Desk, I'm Darren Bolin.
You're not ending it. I'm ending
in Ajax this hour, where a shooting has left 2 people hospitalized. At around 4:30 this afternoon, Durham police responded to calls on Harwood Avenue South near Kingston Road West, where they found a vehicle riddled with bullet holes. Police say the victims, a man and woman in their 20s, were both conscious en route to a trauma center, but the severity of their injuries remains unknown. Details on suspects are also scarce, but officials note that a vehicle was seen fleeing the area. And we're expecting to receive more information from police as the investigation Following months of calls from advocates, experts, and fellow politicians, the Ford government is now providing paid sick days for workers affected by COVID-19. Queen's Park Bureau Chief Travis Danrush has the details.
traveling out on the major routes this evening, everything.
They promote the signing force of the China-EU investment agreement. Merkel says Germany advocates opening up in cooperation and opposes protectionism. The two sides also signed bilateral cooperation documents involving climate response, health, food safety, and more. Almost all regions in China registered double-digit economic growth in the first quarter of the year, placing the country's economic recovery on a solid track. Provincial level areas released their regional growth results, which were all above 12% year-on-year. Hubei province, which includes Wuhan, the area that was hardest hit at the beginning of the pandemic, had the strongest growth rebound.
Jomo's losing his fucking mind trying to time his pings. In the video, dog, it don't matter if you kill the audio. Or maybe I'm not, I don't care.
Sport credits of $3,000.
During the first and second waves, but Fullerton comparing the horrible situation last spring to firefighters rushing to a raging fire, says she wasn't the one who started the fire.
China-Germany intergovernmental consultation. The number of deaths in India from COVID-19 has reached a grim milestone.
Well, in Delhi, a number of new patients are being turned away because there are no hospital beds or hospital facilities to be offered to them.
European lawmakers have overwhelmingly backed a post-Brexit trade deal with the United Kingdom. In business, China's adjusting tariffs on steel products. And in sports, a comeback win in the Champions League semifinals. In culture and entertainment, the world's longest-running jazz festival will be visiting China for the first time.
Drop down again.
Now the day's top
6,
stories.
7,
Chinese
8,
Premier Li
right?
Keqiang says China stands ready to work with Germany to promote the bilateral relationship to a higher level. He made the remarks in Beijing when co-chairing.
Medical team is confident that the move would not compromise their condition. As for whether someone could be transferred without their consent, every effort is going to be made to
working group on the disposal of nuclear wastewater. A third batch of China-donated COVID-19 vaccines has been handed over in Laos. The Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine was handed over by
asking drivers to avoid the area as road closures remain in effect. We'll keep you updated with more on this developing story. Reporting live, I'm Madison Fitzpatrick.
This is All News Radio 680 News from Queen's Park today. The Mayor doesn't think having to partner up with a volunteer organization to get the message out is a bad thing.
Data released by the Federal Health Ministry shows that more than 360,000 new cases have been registered since Tuesday morning, taking the total tally close to 18 million.
So
This is the highest single-day spike in COVID-19 cases ever since the pandemic broke out in the country. Online registration for COVID-19 vaccination for all Indians aged 18 and above began yesterday. This will be the third phase of vaccination against the pandemic in the country. The vaccination process for the third phase is slated to begin on May 1st. The Indian government so far provided nearly 160 million vaccine doses free of cost. The government says more than 10 million COVID-19 vaccine doses are still available to be administered, and that more than 5.7 million doses will be received within the next 3 days. Tokyo Olympic organizers and the IOC are pushing ahead with plans to open the postponed Olympics in just under 3 months.
If we get spots in the playoffs tonight, but for that to happen,
That's struggling to stay afloat during
Many times that the vaccine should be a global good because global prosperity needs to be shared.
Climate change is an important area of international collaboration for China. As we know, the country has set a goals of reaching its carbon emission peak in 2030 and carbon neutrality in 2060. What ways can China and Germany advance collaboration?
I'm pretty sure this one is going to be the world today, and that was the hourly news I've been listening to. The sun shining.
And the story on the the news you want to know. On today.
China and Germany hold the 6th round of intergovernmental talks. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi stresses COVID-19 cooperation in meeting with his counterparts of South Asian countries. U.S. Secretary of State has made his first trip to Africa virtually, and the EU Chair von der Leyen blames sexism for the Sofagate. You are listening to World Today, a news program with a different perspective. I'm Anna in Beijing. In the coming hour, we'll bring you in-depth analysis of this news and other stories we've been following. To listen to this episode again or to catch up on previous episodes, you can download our podcast by...
Oops. Well, looking for World Today, CRI, you'll find it.
China and Germany have signed a joint statement on collaboration in intelligent manufacturing technologies. How can the two countries further strengthen collaboration in this sector during the post-pandemic era?
The German partnership is evolving very well also in the context of business collaboration and manufacturing as well.
The pandemic.
The auditor is out with a special report on the government's handling of the outbreak in long-term care. It found the government and the nursing home sector failed to learn the lessons from the SARS epidemic of '03. The auditor also points towards a lack of integration between the long-term care homes and the hospital sector. She also talked a lot about the troubles regarding overcrowding, as well as insufficient staff and a near total lack of oversight. But Minister of Long-Term Care Mary Fullerton appeared to take no responsibility.
I take responsibility for the well-being of residents in long-term care and for accountability over fixing the disaster of the last 15 years. But we didn't start the fire.
NDP leader Horvath.
40 years.
Believe
extended care nursing home fire, it's all in the report.
Richard Southern.
The City of Toronto teaming up with an increasingly popular online group that's been helping spread the word about vaccine availability. 6 Cities' Mark Douglas joins us with the latest from Mayor Tory.
I'm proud of the fact that we're working together to do that because it's all hands on deck here.
Heaping praise on Vaccine Hunters Canada, the mayor is not even accepting the premise of a question that this group of unpaid volunteers might be doing better than the Ontario government when it comes to informing the people. Toronto uses the province's vaccination booking system. Vaccine Hunters is the darling of social media with frequent and simple updates and announcements about where, when, and how to find vaccinations and who can get them. The city and Vaccine Hunters have entered into a new partnership, and Mayor John Tory says, God bless them.
We can help them do what they're trying to do, which happens to be exactly the same thing we're trying to do.
The City of Toronto will now, at the end of each day, send Vaccine Hunters all the details of the city's vaccination clinics coming up for the following day. I'm Mark Douglas.
And a big move at the pumps, that's on the way.
Hi, Keith here from Speedy Glass to tell you that sometimes even the best drivers are no match for rough roads. And a crack in your windshield can happen fast. Luckily, a cracked windshield is no match for my team and I at Speedy Glass. We use cutting-edge tools to quickly replace your windshield to the strictest standards, so it remains structurally sound. And for added peace of mind, our work comes with a lifetime warranty.
I think, when people are talking about China-European relations, in their mind, they are actually thinking about China-Germany relations, because Germany has played a leading role, and the trade investment is a major part of the whole China-European relations.
Then in what areas are we going to see more cooperation between the two nations after this round of talks?
Well, I noticed, from the discussions of the two sides or this afternoon, I think, post-COVID-19 cooperation will be the priority. The whole world, Europe especially, has been hit hardly by the pandemic. So economic recovery will be certainly the key area for further new cooperation after this meeting. And also, I'm also thinking about producing of vacancy, for example, mutual recognition of the vacancy could also be another important area of cooperation. And thirdly, climate change, fighting climate change will be the key areas for two countries' cooperation.
Many observers said this meeting is held amid friction between China and Germany on multiple fronts. For example, Germany and Europe has been criticizing China on the so-called Hong Kong and Xinjiang issues. So in your opinion, will these issues affect the China-Germany cooperation in the near future?
A lot of discussions in recent days about the China and European relations, including China-Germany relations, which we had some kind of frictions already, sections, anti-sections. Yes, to a certain extent, this is unfortunate, events will have some negative impact on the relations between the two sides. China has its own positions or some issues, but a lot of European countries, people in Europe do not really fully understand what is going on in Europe. They depend on some medias or some opinion leaders. They have now actually visited China, have a first-hand knowledge of China. So I expect, I suspect this will, something element will continue to have some unfortunate impact.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel has been taking a more independent approach from the U.S. towards China. Why do you think Biden's China policy faced an obstacle in current German government?
The new president of the United States is very active, has been very active, where everybody knows, in the re-establishment of the reshaping of the allies systems. In my opinion, this is the biggest difference between President Biden and the former president of United States, Donald Trump. And this is not just a slogan. It's the new Ministry of the United States has invested a lot of energies and diplomatic efforts in persuading in winning back of European countries and also Asian allies. This is not secret. But you are right. Germany is Germany. Germany's position on China and all other issues is kind of is noticeably different from that of the United States. Why? Perception. It's a very important factor. I think if you ask German Chancellor, she would tell you clearly, to stop China's rising is impossible. So it's wrong. So she made this point very clear. Decoupling is stupid. She said, this is irrational, and the rising of China has been mainly over, the result of Chinese people who are hardworking. She made a lot of talks like this. So perception of is very important. As also, between China and Germany, we are not having kind of geopolitical friction, or in other words, the two sides do not, has been each other's geopolitical threat. Germany does not worry about, China's threat. And Germany is also a country inside the European Union which firmly believe cooperation is a major part of the relationship. Germany admit, we have some different views. Also consider China as a competitor in economic, technological areas. Also, you mentioned this in your last question. A lot of people in Germany also think China is a systemic rival for promoting alternative, models. Having said that, I think for German Chancellor Merkel, practical cooperation is the key. It still holds the mainstream of our relations.
But Germany's Greens Party and its chancellor candidate, a strong candidate actually for the upcoming federal elections, has said she wants a tougher stance from Germany on China. And there have been voices in the Western world questioning Angela Merkel's efforts to tighten ties with China. So do you think there will be a dramatic change of Germany's China policy in its post-Merkel time?
Yes, we are going to have a general election, in Germany in the autumn. So I have already also heard a lot of discussions about the post Merkel era. So this has definitely
years, annual bleaching will kill most. According to human scientists, are a fundamental part of a huge ecosystem, just like trees in a forest. If you don't address the warming of the planet, all of us will lose this ecosystem, and millions of people will suffer. I'm convinced that it's not too late to switch sides. We deserve to live as much as you do, because we are all children of planet Earth.
15 minutes past the hour. India has reported over 200,000 deaths because of COVID-19. Over 3,200 deaths took place between Tuesday and Wednesday, which is the highest daily count so far this year. Data released by the Federal Health Ministry shows that more than 360,000 new cases have been registered since Tuesday morning, taking the total tally close to 18 million. This is the highest single-day spike in COVID-19 cases ever since the pandemic broke out in the country. The COVID-19 figures continue to peak in the country every day, but the federal government ruled out imposing a complete lockdown to contain the worsening situation. While some school examinations have been canceled, others have only been postponed. Delhi's been put under a second consecutive week-long lockdown, this one lasting till May 3rd. The country is also seeing a surge in the black market for oxygen tanks. Ravinder Bala has more.
Well, in Delhi, a number of new patients are being turned away because there are no hospital beds or hospital facilities.
You want to scare the fuck out of somebody trying to rip you off for oxygen? Light a fucking cigarette and open the valve.
Outside, people are being provided oxygen in those ambulances. Even people who have come on stretchers or are lying on the roads are being given oxygen by their own relatives who have managed to procure these oxygen cylinders at a very higher
These
price
people will remember. They will remember you.
There is a lot of black marketing.
And someone tells me you dumbasses ain't covering your faces.
Oxygen concentrators, oxygen cylinders, or even medicines, even though the High Court has come down strongly on the Delhi government and other governments to stop this black marketing of all these medical requirements. But despite that, people on the ground are saying that we are paying double or triple the price for the same product that is required for treating their patients, whether they are oximeters, oxygen cylinders, or anything else. As far as the crematoriums are concerned, they are also still, running overtime. There is a lot of expansion which is going on in some crematoriums where there are spaces so that more funerals can be conducted at the same time. There are queues outside crematoriums. Situation is really bad, but the government is trying to ramp up facilities. There are new
understatement of the year. Situation is really bad. Yeah, fucking hell.
In Delhi, but that also got filled in 24 hours. So you can see the demand is much higher. This new variant is actually impacting people, especially it is impacting their lungs, and that is why the demand for oxygen during the second wave is much higher. It will take a few days before things will settle down, but for now, a lot of lives being lost because of shortage of oxygen.
That was Ravinder Bauer reporting from New Delhi. The United Nations is helping supply India with medical equipment and other supplies as it battles against COVID-19. Spokesperson Farhan Haq says a UN team in India is supporting authorities, including local governments, in responding to the pandemic. He says the World Health Organization and the UN Children's Fund are procuring oxygen concentrators, COVID-19 testing machines, and protective kits, with around 2,600 field officers deployed in India. The WHO is also helping to set up mobile hospital
solar panels making hydrogen or
laboratories.
Hydrogen or something.
UK Health Secretary Matt Hancock says Britain does not have an excess of coronavirus vaccines to offer virus-struck India. Hancock made the remark on Wednesday as India crossed that grim milestone of 2 million